Okay, we are ready.
All right. Okay, we're called together to order the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting on November 2nd, 2021. It's 7 p.m. And can we get a Commissioner Cease, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I get a roll call, please?
Tonight's roll call. Ambrosiani.
Here.
Sullivan is, I believe, excused.
Cease, sir.
Verhey is excused. Cease.
Here.
Charbonneau.
Here.
And Chair Swan,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, number 4 on the agenda is citizens' comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearings. Those who have signed in will be given first opportunity to speak. Time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker and a total of 36 minutes total speaking time for this agenda item. Do we have anybody signed in?
No, we do not.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to please come up to the podium and give us your name and
Hi, Liz DeMoss, Inside City Limits. I wanted to speak tonight on the manufacturing topic that you're going to be speaking on for Central Business District. I'm the council member that brought it to the agenda. I spoke on this, I think, last May, and the reason I had brought it to council was because there were several businesses identified as already doing business under the line of business manufacturing to some degree in the previous, in the past and currently. But more importantly, there are businesses that want to do that line of business, but want to, do business within code. So I'm not by any means suggesting that we need to worry about the businesses that are already doing that, but I think it just shows that we need to make some changes. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to see it added to the land use table with a potential CUP for manufacturing in the Central Business District. But anyway, tonight I guess it's up to you guys to have that discussion and hopefully give council a recommendation so we can make a decision on how we'd like to move forward with that. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak? Give us your name and you live inside the city limits or not?
Yeah, Randy Wells, Inside City Limits, small business owner. I'm here as well to talk about the manufacturing inside the city limits and working on that change. There are multiple businesses that are already operating underneath that. I'm one of the new businesses that would like to operate under the change. I would bring at least 4 year-round jobs. And I don't mean cash register jobs, I mean sustainable, great paying jobs. So I would like to see some changes done as well under the light manufacturing. So I look forward to hearing what you all have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Okay. We have number 5, which is approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion, any changes? Okay, I would like to add under new business, number 6, discussion concerning recognition of Cindy Eklund for her contribution to the planning and zoning and city. That'll be under, a discussion about. Anybody have anything else? Okay. And we get, I guess, a roll call vote on approval of the agenda, consent agenda with that change.
Voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda, Charbonneau,
Yes.
Ambrosiani,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Swan.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved, and approved on your consent agenda are the October 19th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Thank you. Number 6, special orders, presentations and reports. A, we have no proclamations or awards. We'll go to B. Do we have a city administrative report?
We should have Courtney Bringhurst on the telephone.
Yeah, so I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
Yep.
So for the city administration report, we are the community development department is currently moving offices to the city hall building. We will be in the offices where the Parks and Rec used to be. So that move is currently happening. Starting on November 8th, we will be officially in those offices, and we'll change our website and probably send out an email to the public so that they know where to come if they want to meet with us. And other than that, the Community Development Director Jason starts on Monday as well, and that's pretty much it for the reports today.
Thank you, Courtney. I have a question for you. At our last meeting, Commissioner Ambrosiani brought up the question about how much authority planning and zoning has to dictate, how a building is used, specifically when it's concerning the nightly lodging. Was any effort moved on that question, find an answer for us?
Yeah, I'm working on getting a response. I was planning on presenting what I could find at our next work session, if that is okay.
That's perfect. I just don't want it to be dropped.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
see other reports and announcements. I don't think we have anything. We don't have any presentations. So next on our agenda is public hearings. Public hearings comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. After all speakers have spoken, a person may speak for a second time for no more than 1 minute. Resolutions requiring public hearings. First resolution, Resolution 2021-026 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, granting a conditional use permit to AtCom Consulting Incorporated to construct a wireless communication facility on the roof of the Residence Hall on Block 29, original town site of Seward, Block 29 replat, located at 516 3rd Avenue within the industrial zoning district. Again, public hearing, comments to 5 minutes per person. After each speaker has spoken, a person may speak for a second time for no more than 1 minute. Do we have anybody on the list?
We do.
Oh, do we have to open them up? Yes, I'm sorry. What's the wishes of the council?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2021-026.
I'll second.
Okay. And I guess I'd like to get a staff report on that first, before we go to public hearing. Courtney, you there?
Yeah.
Could we get a staff report?
Yep, staff report for resolution 2021-026. Background investigation, ACOM Consulting Inc. has applied for a conditional use permit from the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission to construct a wireless communications facility on the roof of the Residence Hall at 516 3rd Avenue, Block 29, original town site of Seward, Block 29 replat. The site proposed for this wireless communications facility is designed to improve the voice and data capacity for Verizon's customers in Seward, Alaska. It will also maximize coverage while minimizing visual impacts by locating next to an existing communications facility while using the minimum height needed to meet coverage objectives. The facility will be unmanned and accessible by authorized personnel only and will not produce any hazardous waste. The proposed facility will serve the surrounding community by providing additional cellular bandwidth in an area that is currently underserved. With the ever-increasing number of data-intensive mobile devices that are now being used for streaming, online conferences and education, cloud computing and telemedicine, the telecommunications industry is facing unprecedented demand for increased telecommunications bandwidth capacity. Surrounding land use and zoning. Development requirements. The proposed structure for the business meets the zoning code development requirements, Table 15.10.222, as well as the specific requirements for commercial communications towers in Code 15.10.250. And you can see those specifications that are met on page 39 in the land use narrative and page 49, the construction drawings. Floodplain status, according to the Kenai Peninsula floodplain map, the area is not located within a flood zone. Utilities, the applicant is proposing an unmanned facility on an existing structure with adequate structural capacity for use. The proposed use will also utilize existing infrastructure for electricity and fiber for ongoing use and operations of the facility. No other public services or facilities are needed. Parking. No parking is needed or required for the use of this wireless communications facility. Consistency checklist. It meets the comprehensive plan under economic base, provide modern communications infrastructure, and economic development, support development of modern communications infrastructure, and it meets the strategic plan, endeavor to provide modern communication infrastructure, promote the development of local communications networks. Staff comments. Building department said applicant will need a building permit. Fire department, no comment. Public Works Department, no comment. Harbor Department, no comment. Police Department, no comment. Electric Department, no comment. Telecommunications, no comment. Public notice, property owners within 300 feet of Block 29, original town site Seward, Block 29 replat, were notified of this proposed conditional use permit action. Public notice signs were posted on the property and all other public hearing requirements of City Code 15.01.00 were complied with. At the time of publication, the Community Development Department has received no public inquiries requiring the proposed conditional use permit. If any correspondence is received after publication of this agenda statement, it will be presented as a laydown item at the Commission meeting. Recommended conditions. The applicant shall work with City staff through the building permit process to address it and accomplish any required upgrades and modifications. Applicant shall work with the Electric Department for any possible upgrades to electrical utilities. And per City Code 15.10.325, an approved CUP will last 6 months from the date of approval if the use for which the permit was issued has not been implemented or a building permit obtained. Commission may grant a 6-month extension upon finding that circumstances have not changed sufficiently since the date of initial permit approval. Modification of final approval of a conditional use permit may, upon application by the permittee, be modified by the Planning and Zoning Commission when changed conditions cause the conditional use to no longer conform to the standards for its approval, to implement a different development plan, conforming to the standards for its approval, or the modification plan shall be subject to a public hearing and filing fees set by City Council resolution. Recommendation, the Community Development Department staff recommends approval of Resolution 2021-26, granting a conditional use permit to ACOM Consulting Incorporated to construct a wireless communications facility on the roof of the Resident Hall at 516 3rd Avenue, Block 29, Original Town Center Seward, Block 29, replat in an institutional zoning district.
Thank you. This time we'll open for public comments. We have anybody signed in?
We do. Carol Griswold. Hi.
Dear Commissioners, I'm in support of this CUP. The location on top of the Aptec dorm, is this thing on? Is it on? No.
It just slides out right here.
Now we're on. Okay. I'm in support of this CUP. The location on top of the Aptec dorm makes sense and will be less obtrusive than a cell tower. However, the property was not properly noticed as per 1510-040 Public Hearings 3. The public notice signs shall be placed so as to be visible from each improved street adjacent to the property. Both 3rd Avenue and Madison Street should have had a public notice sign. After circling the block a few times, I found one sign behind the triple pane glass by the dormitory entrance, difficult to read with the greenish tint of the glass. It was not very visible. There was no sign at all posted on Madison. I don't know if P&Z can legally waive this requirement for expediency. I doubt it. To comply with code, this public hearing should be postponed, proper notice, public notice given, and brought forward at a future meeting for the public hearing. Thank you for your consideration.
There is no one else signed in.
All right, so Commissioner Ambrosiani, you want to get started on this?
Sure. I'd like to ask administration to comment on the signage and if there was appropriate signage.
You're talking about the comments from Ms. Griswold?
Yes. Oh, not court.
So public notice signs were provided to the property owner, and they were instructed to place it in a place visible to the road. And then the other public notices, posting it in City Hall, Post Office, Library, Harbor were complied with, as well as the 2 weeks of posting in the newspaper, as well as the mailings.
Thank you, Court.
So, Courtney, do you have any comment on actually the legality of this? I mean, we've had this come up before, where signs weren't posted where people could find them. They were kind of off the beaten path a little bit. And in those cases, I know in the past we have postponed for that specific reason. Are you?
Yeah, I would be curious to know as well what is required or expected, since once I give those signs out to the property owners, there's a lot that can happen to them that is kind of out of my control, and I don't know what standards or regulations have been implemented in the past for that. Once I've given the signs to property owners, but I'm happy to make any corrections as needed.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a comment?
I-
Commissioner Cease.
I read something somewhere that we had quite a windstorm recently, and that maybe the signs could have been disappeared with the strength of the winds. We just had a nasty weather period, so there's a possibility they could have been blown, but everything else seemed to have been okay with the postings in other places, post office, etc. So
Commissioner Charbonneau, do you have anything?
The report in Beaver gave was incredibly thorough, so I don't have any questions on that. I just, like in Rojani pointed out, like, we can see we can, I'm not sure we're supposed to, or if we should repost signs. I don't know the legality on that.
Okay. Well, I know they do have to be posted, but I do think Commissioner Cease has a point there that if the winds were really blowing and they certainly were enough to take signs down, if somebody brought the sign inside. And then, so I guess with that understanding, I guess with that idea, I think we can go forward on this.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, absolutely.
So as procedurally, if we approve this tonight, is that it, or does it have to go to council?
This has to go to council.
Okay, so those
Oh, no,
signs...
no, this is a conditional use permit. It does
So
not
it's
go to
just
council.
done- it's done
No,
with
this
us
is,
then?
this is done.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. No, that's it. That was my question.
All right. Are we okay with proceeding on this? This?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there any more else comment on this subject? Okay. I'll call for a vote.
Voting on the approval of resolution 2021-026. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Ambrosiani,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Chair Swan.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is Resolution 2021-027 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, granting a conditional use permit to OBI Seafood to construct and employ campground with modular housing on Lot 2, Block 3, Leary Industrial Subdivision, located at 1607 Northwestern Circle within the Industrial Zoning District. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-027.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Can we get a staff report, please?
So did you say staff report?
Yes, please.
Okay. Staff report for resolution 2021-27. Background and justification. Brian O'Leary of OBI Seafoods has applied for a conditional use permit from the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission to construct and operate an employee campground on the property located at 1607 Northwestern Circle, Lot 2, Block 3, Lear Industrial Subdivision. Seward City Code 1510.140B18C states that an employee campground is an area operated by an established business with high seasonal employment of transient workers as a housing alternative and not construed to be a construction camp. The definition of a construction camp per lawinsider.com is a temporary facility for the temporary living accommodation of persons engaged in construction or maintenance of a building structure, machinery, or equipment on the site on which the construction camp is located for the duration of such construction or maintenance, and which must be removed upon completion of the construction project. The land use table in City Code 1510.226 allows employee campgrounds with an approved conditional use permit in an industrial zoning district. Surrounding land use and zoning. Development requirements. Employee campground requirements are specified in City Code 15.20.226J as having at least 10 feet clear space between camping units. The applicant has stated that the east-west spacing is 12 feet between each set of mods. The roadway between rows 1 and 2 is 20 feet, and the spacing between rows 2 and 3 is 8 feet. Floodplain status. According to the Kenai Peninsula floodplain map, the area is not located within the flood zone. Utilities. City water, sewer, and electrical services are available to the proposed location. City Code .10.226J, 3 and 4 also requires that garbage and refuse requirements shall also apply to employee campgrounds. Sanitary facilities shall include either permanent or portable toilets. If permanent facilities are constructed, they shall conform to Code 8.15.425B. Shower facilities may either be on-site in conformance with Code 8.15.425B or provided on the job site of the employer. Parking. Sewer City Code does not have specific requirements for employee campground parking. Code 15.10.215B, industrial processing, manufacturing, and assembling, does require 1 parking space for each 500 square feet of gross floor area, except that office space shall provide parking space as required for offices, and dormitories or bunkhouses require 1 space per 4 residents at maximum. The consistency checklist, the findings that have been provided for the comprehensive plan and strategic plan should be evaluated by commissioners to determine consistency for this resolution. So the comprehensive plan, under economic base, it states that the City of Seward values a stable economic environment, economic diversity, year-round businesses, environmentally responsible industry, and employment that promotes a high standard of living. Encourage the prudent management of resources for healthy commercial and sports fishing industries, and promote expansion and development of local marine entrepreneurial businesses. Strategic plan states under economic base, we are a community that promotes economic diversity, encourages growth of year-round businesses, desires environmentally responsible industry, and seeks jobs that promote a higher standard of living. Adjust local development regulations where appropriate to encourage development that is consistent with our economic-based vision. Staff comments. Building department had no comment. Fire department stated that per city code, these referring to the modular structures are not classified as temporary structures nor permanent buildings, so no code review or inspections will be performed. The fire and building department suggests requiring an annual self-inspection and attestation to community development verifying the conditions in the CUP are met. Public Works had no comment. Harbor had no comment. Police department, no comment. Electric department would like to see plans for electrical connections, electrical use to the modular units. Public notice, property owners within 300 feet of Lot 2, Block 3, Lear Industrial Subdivision were notified of this proposed conditional use permit action. Public notice signs were posted on the property and all other public hearing requirements of Seward City Code 15.01.040 was complied with. At the time of this publication, Community Development Department has received no public inquiries regarding the proposed conditional use permit. If any correspondence is received after publication, this agenda statement will be presented as a laydown item at the commission meeting. Recommended conditions. Each sleeping area should have a working smoke detector that is less than 10 years old. Fire extinguishers are professionally inspected and tagged annually and are easily accessible and labeled and within 75 feet of all occupants. No electrical hazards exist, including open junction boxes, extension cords used for permanent wiring, or multi-use plug adapters. Each mod unit has an identification numbering system, an address labeled on the outside of the unit for emergency response. Exits and exit doors should be free of obstruction and doors swing freely. The applicant shall work with all city utility departments for any possible upgrades or connections to the water, sewer, and/or electric utilities. All parking and maneuverability requirements as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission shall remain on site for the life of the use. Bear-proof burgers and containers shall be provided for all garbage and refuse for the life of the use. Per Sewer City Code 15.10.325F, an approved CUP shall lapse 6 months from the date of approval if the use for which the permit was issued has not been implemented or a building permit obtained. The Commission may grant a 6-month extension upon finding that circumstances have not changed sufficiently since the date of initial permit approval. Modification of final approval of the conditional use permit may, upon application by the permittee, be modified by the Planning and Zoning Commission. When change conditions cause the conditional use to no longer conform to the standards for its approval, to implement a different development plan conforming to the standards for its approval, the modification plan shall be subject to a public hearing and a filing fee set by a City Council resolution. Recommendation: Community Development Department staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission spend adequate time reviewing and adjusting the recommended conditions of the CUP before approval of Resolution 2021-27.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up to public comments. Do we have anything?
We do. Carol Griswold is signed in.
Hello again, Carol Griswold, inside city limits. I drove along Northwestern Circle to check the site. I did not find any public notice posted. To comply with code, this public hearing should be postponed, proper public notice given, and brought forward at a future meeting for the public hearing. Weather conditions should not be an excuse for lack of posting over the 10-day period. Staff should be directed to ensure compliance of public posting, and it is required. I sent you an extensive email that further details the many reasons why this CUP should be denied, including incomplete and sketchy application. The use is not covered by Seward Code, so there's no code review and no inspections. Does not comply with code for refuse containers, clear and adequate spacing between units, or parking. It perpetuates substandard housing and cramped living space. Shipping container housing is not supported by the comprehensive plan. Discussions of employee campgrounds have always been shortchanged in code revisions, pushed to the margins like its residents. A footnote in the land uses allowed table. It is past time to eliminate these substandard, inadequate, and inhumane shipping container housings and tents, and require permanent housing such as bunkhouses for our residents. Please deny the CUP application. Thank you.
There is no one else signed in.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak up, please? Please come forward, state your name and your address.
Good evening. I'm Brian O'Leary. I'm the manager at OBI Seafoods facility downtown. I put in the application. This is my first year in Seward, so I went through and got the past CUP permits, and some of the stuff I know was changed when I was in dialogue with the new city manager. So we followed with Blaine Bardison, who owns the modular units, what the previous application process had been. Based upon the previous public comment, for the seafood industry, these types of modular housing units are used throughout the entire state in various communities. They are not substandard. They are finished. It's not just a shipping container that's got the bare minimum. They have beds, they have bunks, and then we have proper gymnasium space for bathroom sites and for showers. Any comment? Any questions?
Did,
Yes.
oh, it's not a question period. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak on this subject? Okay, so we're open for discussion. Mr. Carmen, you want to start us on this?
Yeah, I also found the application quite lacking, and I had a bunch of questions. I wanted to know, like, how many people are in each one, where are the bathrooms and showers? With this increase, are they adding more bathrooms and showers, or is it just going to be a higher demand on what's already out there? The trash services, where are they going to be, and what exactly? And the parking as well, where is it? Are they adding more for these spots? And also, if I remember correctly, the original ones that went in were supposed to be removed every year, but they're not being removed. And fire services said that since they're not permanent, they're not inspected. But if they're not being removed, they're permanent. So I also want some clarification on that.
Okay, I think some of that I can address. First of
Okay.
all, they're not adding new.
Okay.
This is the same containers. They're just putting the CUP under a different ownership.
Yeah, well,
So that's
Okay.
settled, most of that. And Courtney, are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Did you find out where it was in the CUP that the units be moved each year? Where that requirement came from?
Yeah, it was from the previous CUP that was given to Blaine, Blaine Barneson.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the moving them every year was put in the CUP. It's actually not a code requirement that they get moved every year.
so, so then they are permanent, even though the fire says they're not permanent, so they don't inspect, if I heard that correctly.
Well, I think what they're falling into is there's a kind of a void there, and I think that's going to be our position to determine if there needs to be more requirements in these units, because they're not fitting into temporary, and then they're not fitting into a permanent either. But then they're not, I mean, when we talk about permanent, they're not being, even if they're sitting there permanently, they're not being used permanently. They're only being used for 150 days. Anyway, we have a little question. I'd like to, go ahead.
I'd like to ask if we, how do we do that, amend the rules? You're-
Right, I just,
Okay.
is that what you're talking? For this or something else?
On this subject,
Correct.
if we get some, we're guessing, I'd rather hear from the fire chief exactly what's going on.
Okay, I'd like to relax the rules and ask our fire chief to speak on this, give us some input.
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions. What you were saying is mostly true as far as the 150. There's two problems in the city code. One, your land use or for the employee campground says no more than 150 days. And you're correct, it doesn't say they have to be moved or not. The being moved or not came from the original CUP back in 2009, I believe it was. I've got the stack, I'm sorry, about 15 years ago. When it first came forward, they considered them temporary structures. Under the IBC code that's adopted by the city, they do have to be moved every 180 days off the property. That's a temporary structure. So it's meant to come in, do a job, fulfill a need, and then leave. That happened a few times, and then it was requested to leave them for a winter to do maintenance. And that has happened multiple years. And then it just became this kind of battle of, are they temporary structures? What are they? And after speaking with the attorney, because it is an employee campground, they could put a Winnebago in there, right? They could put up the tents legally. So therefore, what these things are not really classified because they are a camper per se, because it's an employee campground. Anywhere else in this city besides employee campground, those would not be allowed to stay more than 180 days. So it's a really gray area that's, Ms. Griswold was right, there's that gray area that it needs to be fixed and something actually kind of pinpoint down how you want to classify it. But as far as IBC, IFC, I can't classify them, therefore I can't inspect them. They have been in the past because we as a city called them temporary structures. But it was always overlooked that it's an employee campground. So if they decided to bring in that fifth wheel or RV, they would be allowed to do so. So therefore, I would not inspect an RV, so I can't inspect these mods. It's the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's what I read. Okay, thank you.
Clear as mud.
Yeah. So yeah, and I did quite a bit of research also, and according to our codes, we call them a tent or RV is what the code says, tent or RV. These don't fit in either of those categories anyway. So from a point of view, I mean, you could really, right now, very strictly say that they can't be there. I want to bring up, we talked a couple years ago, considering another employee campground, that we were really trying to upgrade these camp facilities from tents to something more rigid and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I think, and the other point that, Ms. Griswold brought up is that I don't think we've ever put any real thought into what these things. We've gone through what has been traditionally over the last, I don't know, probably 100 years of what's been accepted in the fishing industry, especially. But Seward is not, King Salmon or Naknek or someplace like that. We're a little bit more of a developed town than that. So the other part of it is that this subject is actually on our list for next work session, which is in 2 weeks from now. I'm glad we have this opportunity, and in a minute I'm going to make a motion that we postpone this. But since we have this on the floor to discuss, if there's any other comments, things that we want to bring out right now, so we can talk about them, then what I suggest is then those are things that we're going to think about for our work session.
I would have concern about postponing it because I don't know what impact it would have on OBI as far as gearing up for the summer. And I don't know how soon we're going to be able to amend the code so that they can be in operation. I think we're all trying to do as good as we can with what we have, including OBI. And I think we just need to get some clarification as to how we want to classify these particular units. It's an upgrade from tents. It's better than campers. It's not as good as a dormitory. But I think we've got to figure some of that out. And as far as use in the fishing industry, there's a lot of other towns like Cordova and other towns that are not Naknek, and they use these. I've seen them double stacked in other places too. I mean, it's really fairly common from what I've seen in the fishing industry to utilize these units for housing for the summer help.
And
so
I think I agree with it because we're moving away from the tents, which is a big step.
Yeah, this is moving away from the tents.
The only reason I'm going to go back and that I would like to see the postponement is I think we're going to get this CUP will get passed, so I think OBI will know that they're going to have the use of them. I don't think that's really in a question. I was just thinking that if we have some discussion when we do this CUP, we'll have an opportunity to add in anything that we think should be done with the conditions, such as parking, which hasn't been addressed. And during the CUP process, we can require parking. The other thing I saw in the code, let's see where I find it here, current requirement is for an annual permit. That is in our code currently, that an employee campground needs an annual permit. There's just nowhere in the code of what that permit entails. So if we want to, through our, even a work session, we can come up with criteria that needs to be done on an annual business through a permit process. And we don't have to change code. It's already there. And we could just, if there's things that we think need to be addressed more effectively or more developed, then we can do it through the CUP process. But since this is on our subject list in 2 weeks, it makes sense that this CUP comes up after our work session.
So would you be recommending that the CUP be postponed till our December meeting?
Well, it'll be our January meeting. We don't have a December.
Oh,
meeting.
so for
Yes,
December,
we could
January
we could postpone it till our
And I
next
think when we-
regular meeting.
I would like to know if that's going to have a negative impact on OPI's operations.
Well, right now, they're supposed to be pulling them out. I mean, right now, they should be gone into their current CUP. So no matter what we do is gonna be better than what, I mean, you following me? I mean, I think administration can, like, knowing that this is gonna, CUP's coming up in another couple of months, they can just let it sit. Because administration has to act on it.
I know, but we're guessing again, and we can get an answer right here in this room.
Okay. I like to, who's our, I'd like to
Brian?
relax the process, wasn't it?
Right.
Brian, do you understand the question?
Could you rephrase it for me one more time?
Go ahead.
If we're looking at postponing this CUP until our January meeting, which would be probably early January, would that have a negative impact on your operations?
From a planning perspective, it would, because it would probably put more risk. Our intention is to use them sometime in March. There hasn't been any type of word yet on when seasons will open for halibut and blackcod, which we participate in Seward. And so kind of having that lingering doubt out there is going to make things a little bit more difficult, because we are going to spend quite a bit of money to get workers up in a very competitive labor market. So the more we kind of push this off, the tougher it makes us on our planning for opening the plant on a normal seasonal basis that we've done for the last 20, 30 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings up the fact, these containers cannot, by code, be used before April 15th. That's actually in our code, they cannot be used. And that's not, unless we change code, that can't be relieved. Unless they take it directly to, in fact, how does that, I have that in here. If they want to, it still is only 150 days, so that's the other part. They can only be used 150 days a year. So if they move them up to into March, which they can do by going through city council, I think it is, I have to read the exact code on that, that means they have to stop being used in July or August.
Unless we change.
Unless we change code. Because the code still says 150 days. Because if it goes over 150 days, then we're starting to go into, now they're a permanent structure, they need to do bunkhouses and put in footings and do, you know, that type of thing. So, you know, to me, that's not even, I mean, if they think they're going to start using them in March, and that's their long-term goal, is to have employees 9 months out of the year, these are the improper structures. I mean, they're very specific, short-term, you know. Anyway, I think this still goes back to, I think we have to have a discussion in a work section environment where we can have dialogue back and forth. Anybody have another comment before I make a motion?
No, I agree. I mean, there's some things I'd like to see adjusted. A work session seems like the proper place to do that.
But why would it have to wait until January? I know we don't have anything doing in December, but.
We don't have meetings in December.
I know. I said, so,
It would be our next, we'll postpone it to our next regular meeting.
so 2 weeks from today is not a regular meeting?
No, that's a work session.
This appears to be work session to me. There's a lot of work in order to get this.
Then we don't have a next regular meeting to approve what we come up with in
Yeah.
the work session until January.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this resolution until our next regular meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Could I get a roll call vote?
Voting on the motion to postpone to January 11th, 2022. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Ambrosiani,
No.
Chair Swan.
Yes.
That motion is failed. Your main motion is back on the
Can
floor.
I change my vote?
No, it failed. It needs to be all four of us since there's only four of us.
No, it just needs to be a majority. Does it have to be four of us to?
You know what? There is a special provision, I'm sorry, that's my mistake. That motion, you're right, when you have 4 commissioners for planning and zoning, you can go with the majority. That is my mistake, and I apologize for that. So the postponement is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, that is one exception you have that's different from city council.
Thank you. All right. We're on to number 3, Resolution 2021-028 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of a preliminary replat of lots 4A-1 and lot 4D, Block 7, 4th of July Creek subdivision in the SMIC Rabo replat, creating 4 lots, lot 4D-1, lot 4A-2, lot 4A-3, lot 4A-4, vacating the west 10-foot utility easement of lot 4D, block 7, 4th of July Creek subdivision, SMIC Rabo replat, and east 10-foot utility easement of lot of 4A-1, block 7, 4th of July Creek subdivision, SMIC replat, Rabo replat. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-028.
I'll second it.
All right.
Vice Chair Swan. This is,
Yes,
this is Courtney, can you hear me?
I do.
The applicant has requested that this resolution actually be postponed until the January meeting.
Yes, do you, since we're on the subject and it's open for public hearing, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public hearing before we postpone it. Do you have a staff report put together? Or did you neglect it knowing it was going to be postponed?
I do have a staff report. Do you want me to read it, knowing that it is going to be postponed, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Attached for the Commission's review and recommendation to the City Council and the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission is a preliminary replat submitted by the Seward City Harbor on behalf of JAG Alaska Incorporated. This platting action creates 4 new parcels, lot 4D-1, lot 4A-2, lot 4A-3, and lot 4A-4 by subdividing lot 4A-1 and lot 4D, block 7, 4th of July Creek subdivision, SMIC Rabo replat, also known as 3305 and 3409 Morris Avenue, Seward, Alaska, in the Seward Marine Industrial Center. JAG Alaska Incorporated requested this plat in order to increase the footprint of the land they are currently leasing at the Seward shipyard. This would allow them to extend the existing rail system on the property to create additional ship berthing and much needed additional employee parking. that together will support increased annual volume of work that can be performed at the facility. In accordance with borough requirements, the city must review and comment on a plat before submittal to the borough for approval. Subdivision review. Zoning, the property is zoned industrial. Size, lot 40-2 is 3.137 acres. Lot 40-1 is 1.895 acres. Lot 40-3 is 2.643 acres. Lot 40-4 is 3.478 acres. Utilities, the lots currently have access to city water, sewer, electricity, and fire hydrants. The attached utility map, page 163. Existing use, these lots are currently being used for marine repair and storage. Access, lot 40-2 can be accessed from Morris Avenue. Lot 40-1 can be accessed from Morris Avenue or Olga Street. Lot 40-3 can be accessed from Olga Street. Lot 40-4 can be accessed from Olga Street or Sorrel Road. Flood zone, the lots are within the flood zone D. The zone D designation is used for areas where there are possible but undetermined flood hazards. Consistency checklist. It meets the comprehensive plan, which encourages completing the development of SNCC as a revenue source with year-round employment opportunities, and to support the SNCC development plan to include new market trends and modern technologies for ship repair and construction, shipping of natural resource products, boat storage, and other compatible industries. And the strategic plan, expand development in the Seward Marine Industrial Center. Staff comments, building department, no comment. Fire department, so there are currently fire hydrants around the property and existing buildings. Code states buildings cannot be more than 250 feet from the hydrant. Just replatting does not require new hydrants, but if the leasing decided to put a building on the property, then a hydrant would be required. Public Works, no comment. Harbor Department, no comment. Police Department, no comment. Electric Department, no comment. Telecommunications, no comment. Property owners within 300 feet of the proposed plating action were notified of the public hearing. Public notice signs were posted on the property and all other public hearing requirements of Seward City Code 15.01.040 were complied with. At the time of this publication, the Community Development Department has received no public inquiries. Any correspondence is received after publication of this agenda statement. It will be presented as a laydown item at the commission meeting. Recommendation was to approve the resolution, but currently by request of the applicant to postpone until the January meeting.
Thank you. Do we have anybody signed in?
Yes, sir, we have Carol Griswold.
Hello again, Carol Griswold, inside city limits. As with the other public hearings, this CUP was not properly noticed. I only found one sign blown over face down on a gravel road in the replat, which is a service road, not a public right-of-way. I did not find any signs on Morris Avenue, Sorrel Road, or Olga Street. The rescheduled public hearing should be properly posted, and staff should ensure compliance for the 10-day duration. I am concerned about the loss of utility easements. Extension cords and hoses, water hoses, snaking all over now serve these lots. The previous leaseholder, David Phillips of Raybo, agreed to provide utilities to this lot, but defaulted on his lease and left before any improvements were made. The two platted 5-foot utility easements in lot 41 should move west with the new lot line, not vacated as an exception to the KPB platting code. The two existing 5-foot easements on the south side of this lot should be extended to the west. There is a gap now. A replat is the perfect time to secure adequate utility easements to serve these lots in the future, not to delete them and ask for an exception. A replat is also the perfect time to rename this subdivision and replace the ill-fated name Raybo with something more neutral. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anybody else signed up?
No, sir.
Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak on this? Okay. I would like to make a motion that we postpone this resolution to our next regular meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Voting on the motion to postpone to January 11th, 2022. Ambrosiani,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes,
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Swan.
Yes.
That resolution is postponed.
Thank you. Okay, number 8, unfinished business. We have none. So we'll go to new business. We've already taken care of 1. 2 is nominate and elect a chair. And I guess, yes.
Should we have all of the commission here before we do this, or is it?
I think I would like to make a motion to postpone 2 and 3 under new business to the January meeting in expectation that we have more commissioners.
Yeah, I'll second.
It's been, motion's made. Well, actually, we don't have to make a motion. We just have to decide to do it.
I agree.
And we have acceptance on that, to wait until next.
oh, no problem.
You have no problem? Okay, let's go ahead and reschedule those for our next regular meeting. Okay, number 4, review the city council's directive to evaluate allowing light manufacturing in the central business district. And these are just discussion items. Yes, we've just been so busy. We've been meaning to work on this for quite some time. I think that it should be, personally, I think it should be done in a work session and go over exactly what we're wanting to do. And since it has been delayed for, well, it first came up almost a year ago, 9 months ago. Unless we have something going on, why don't we just go ahead and schedule that for our January work session? Unless something, we don't have anything else.
I mean, for this month's work session, what
No.
do we have?
No, this month I think we
We
need
don't
to, I'm talking about January's work session.
Okay.
Because this month's work session, I think we already have 2 items on there. We have both the definitions to finish that up,
True.
and we have the employee campground.
Yeah, that will
And
be-
so I think that's enough. Now, we could put it as a 3rd item.
I think we should post it as a 3rd item in case we get
Okay.
to it.
Right.
Because I'd hate to,
But you know you're going to have a small group of people again.
pardon me?
You're going to have a small group of people.
Might go quick.
They go quickly. But I'm not going to be there, so you guys have to say if you want to take it on.
Well, I like to put a lot of things on there so we don't go home early and we can do things. So,
And I agree with that, and I think we have to be more aggressive because we're falling behind in a lot of
Yeah.
things.
so I think we should put it on, and then if we, and get through and do our best to get through the first 2, and then hit this on 3rd if we can.
I think we could also ask staff for some assistance to give us more information on what the wording would look like to include light business manufacturing in CBD. And if they could possibly propose some wording.
Well, I think you just open it up for, well, I guess we're in this discussion about it, it's here. And since I won't be at that meeting, I'll put a couple, my 2 cents in. It is light, and it covers a wide range of areas, light manufacturing does. So, again, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be done with the CUP. The discussion would be more like, what restrictions, what type of restrictions, or you know, how are you going to restrict? So, I mean, this is what you're going to have to battle on whoever's there, is you're going to have light manufacturing. Some of it is making candy, and something else could be considered, you know, pouring aluminum castings, which would still be considered light manufacturing. And so how do you, I mean, it covers this really broad area. How do you narrow it in our central business district, which is a fairly small area and, you know, fairly, you know, unique. So then some type of criteria about, I mean, that's where the discussion is, and you're right. I think we're going to have to get, you know, the public, and that's why you know, the meeting would be a lot better way, because then we have open discussions with the fire department, make sure they're there, staff, concerned citizens, because in that environment we just have an open discussion.
Yeah, I think the topic warrants a proper discussion amongst everybody.
And yeah, and you know, these things, I know we took a long time doing the definitions, but if it takes us a long time getting them through to get it right, then I think that's just what we're going to have to do. Mm-hmm. And I agree with your analysis. We're going to have to put more time into our work sessions and get through some of this stuff and get ahead. So
could we possibly ask administrative staff to see if there's any other examples in Alaskan communities for light manufacturing, and see if we can, I mean, we're basically trying to start from scratch here, and I don't think we need to.
No, I think that would be,
look at some other examples and maybe move things along, even though we'd be, you know, thorough. I agree with being thorough, but I don't necessarily agree with having to recreate the wheel when someone's already done it for us. So I wouldn't mind seeing, I would like to instruct staff to, if they can, to see if they can pull some light manufacturing guidelines from other communities.
Courtney, are you overhearing that?
Yeah, so to clarify, Commissioner Ambrosiano, you're wanting to know what other light manufacturing is done currently in the Central Business District or in other communities?
In examples from other communities, so we have some guidelines, something to shoot for, rather than just creating this from scratch.
Yeah, we've done.
Okay, yeah, I can find that.
Okay, we did that with the small housing
Yeah,
units and stuff.
absolutely.
That seemed
It's been a standard process. So. Okay, any more discussion on that? Okay. Number 6 is it's a discussion concerning recognition of Cindy Eklund for her contributions. From my understanding, we need to request a presentation, and I don't know what the criteria are, but I know if there's enough years in service, you get.
Yeah, based on her years of service, I think she qualifies for the gold pan, and that would be presented to her during a city council meeting. So if the commission wants to do something in conjunction with the city council meeting, we can coordinate that, or you can do your own presentation to her in this setting.
I just want to bring it up because I think we have to request the gold pan, and I'm fine with them doing separately. Is that everybody?
Sure.
That discussion is done.
Are all gold pans the same size?
Yes.
Except yours.
Not mine, yeah.
Okay, so informational items reports, there's no action required on that, so we are open to number 6, citizens' comments. So they're limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak at this time?
Hello, Liz DeMoss inside City Limits. Thank you for talking about manufacturing tonight in Central Business District. I think that the work session is nice and good, but I think that really what it's going to come down to is because there are so many different types of business that you can do under manufacturing light. Some of it would seem heavy, but it actually is under light. That it's really going to come down to a CUP and having a fire inspection and having the public hearing process so people can come out and say, I don't want my neighbor doing that, you know. So I'm not sure how much we want to beat it to death here necessarily. I think that it's really going to come down to case by case for some of these because it really, you know, varies from jewelry making to cannabis extraction to, you know, just all different kinds of things. So that would be my input on that, is to start to look at all the lines of business probably on the State of Alaska webpage and see what stands out. And also I think it would be important to see how other communities have it in their code. But yeah, I think that, you know, we could try to figure out all of the stipulations we would want to put on all of the different kinds of businesses that could possibly be under manufacturing, but I think you could talk about that for a really long time. So just keep that in mind. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there anybody else in the public who'd like to speak? Okay. All right. So we're down to 12. Board and administration comments and response to citizens' comments. Any comments?
I always want to thank the staff for doing a good job and everybody for coming out.
All right.
Is this it?
This is your time to speak. Anything you want to speak about?
I just appreciate the four of us making it so it wouldn't be postponed, period.
True.
And Brenda is always our staple.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Courtney, of course, under the circumstances, she's done a very good job.
Yes, you did a very good job. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, on that, I am going to have a adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
We are adjourned.